Well, we can talk about. Well, let's go on to that now. We can talk about the EMMA, English Mixed Martial Arts Association. Not a person called Emma.
Yes,
Because,
not a person.
Not a person called Emma.
I've just about got away with it now. Now she believes that it's a thing, not a person.
So, well, this is something we've been working on for a little while now, isn't it? And we've been having conference calls with the whole crew. And where do you want to start with it? Because the most important thing is people know what we're doing, and people know that we're here. I mean, this is specifically for English MMA gyms and competitors.
Yeah, I mean, it's education, isn't it? Yeah. Really, the sport of MMA. The most fundamental thing that people should understand, who are outside the sport, is that we are unrecognised in terms of governmental support or stature. So we are unregulated by that definition. We've been reliant on good people doing the right thing and at the right time in the right places. Classic case in point is, from the UK would be Cage Warriors. From a professional standpoint, towed the line, go above and beyond, fighters' safety, all the things that they don't have to do because there's no one regulating them. That's the first thing. Obviously, from a developmental point of view, this is where EMMAA came in, English Mixed Martial Arts Association, solely to concentrate on the development, because we know that MMA is like an upside down pyramid right now. The sport's there at the top, and then underpinning it is in this country, it's a fragile, shaky thing because there's no jurisdiction because we don't have to do it. So we're trying to put the right pillars and blocks and foundation in now. And obviously the English Federation, we put a call to arms out, didn't we?
Yeah.
The people involved with the board, myself, yourself, Leon Roberts, Paul Sutherland, Nick Pete, Rosie Sexton.
Yep. Paul Reed,
Martin Shotbolt. Dr. Ali, Molly McCann.
Yep.
So the representation there, from different facets in areas of the sport, from medical point of view, from a fighter's point of view, Molly and yourself, arguably still from an official's point of view, me and Leon from a regulatory point of view. Me and Leon from a coach's point of view, Paul Sutherland.
I mean, it kind of touches on what we were what we were talking about a minute ago with the pandemic, and after the New Zealand show, we had the Brasilia show, which we were discussing, and then the London event, which we were going to be present at as EMMAA. The English
Mixed Martial Arts. Massive springboard for us there.
And then obviously with the pandemic that stopped it. But the thing is, so when the UFC come over to the UK, they self-regulate.
Yeah.
And that's not ideal because that gives us no protection outside of when the UFC are here. Basically, if somebody wants to put a show on, there's nobody that can regulate that show to make sure it's safe and meeting all the requirements to protect the fighters. If the UFC go to somewhere like Sweden, they have their own regulatory body, which is basically kind of what we need, which is kind of what we are, which what we've needed for a long time. And I mean, from a fighter perspective, knowing, and you'll know this as well from your time and experience, like we've been very lucky that we've had a few good people in the sport that have held the integrity together, and we've been lucky with the people that have dropped in the sport and made a bit of cash and bounced, because they could have really negatively impacted when we were fortunate that they didn't. But now with the English Mixed Martial Arts Association, we're trying to move that forward a bit more and bring some unity to the country and to the sport at grassroots.
Exactly that, and we know all the pitfalls. Hopefully, you people, who Dan is, who I am, and you can trust in the fact that like I'm talking to the people now. We put that call to arms out, didn't we? Saying that, we're trying to unite and get people together. Enough's enough. We know that there's nothing to stop us trying to put the right things in. We put that campaign out before, even going to the EnglishMMA.org website and the Twitter page and the Instagram page. When we're asking for gyms to sign up, we know gyms are, to say they're up against it right now is a understatement.
Yeah.
We're not asking for any money, not asking for a penny. We want to be able just to unite people, and like I said, this is where the IMAF comes in and the importance of us. Like I said, that inverted pyramid, we're structuring the sport from the ground up at all levels, coaches education, athlete certification, and I know people will have their own ideals and opinions on it. But when we talk about certification and grading syllabuses, it's not about a body of people coming in and telling you you're doing this wrong and show me how to do an arm bar and this, that. It's just about putting a foundation in for hopefully getting this sport recognised at a later date, because coming with recognition is fundamentally, first and foremost, is some government assistance, funding. And with funding, we can bring in more people and ensure tighter safety measures. Unfortunately, in the UK, as you know, combat sports, there's two sides of it. You'll have a regulated side and an unregulated side. And that's just the way that the jurisdiction and the law is in the UK. In other countries, they don't have that problem, shall I say. There is a lot of antiquated, jurisdiction and whatnot out there. And obviously MMA being a newer sport, we're kind of, like I said, everything's still formative. Do not lose sight of the track. Do not lose sight of the fact that this is still a young sport, but there's good people, and we are, this is all for the love. This is not a paid entity. No. It's not a paid role. People involved in this, we know it's a slow burn. We know it's a slow process, but it's almost like we're appealing to people to come together, register your interest via the EnglishMMA.org website or via the social channels and come together and help us bring the sport on.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're out there, if you've got a gym in England, or if you're a fighter in England, follow the Instagram, get on the website and register, and let us know you're out there and you want to be a part of this. And let's just, especially when everyone's got a bit of downtime, gyms are closed and stuff. When things start picking back up, we can have a big impact here. The UFC are already on board. We're going to get other promoters on board as well, and really establish what the English Mixed Martial Arts Association is all about. But in the long run, helping with things like insurance and, making sure that there aren't any people out there setting up gyms that don't know what they're talking about, and protecting people in the sport and the fighters when they're competing. Two
very good points you made there. One was obviously it's not a one-way street, it's a two-way street. So we need the voice of the people out there too. Like you said, what do we give back? Insurance, that's a classic one. It's not about who's not insured or doing something uninsured. We know out there that there is various levels of insurance, but for mixed martial arts and the definition for insurers, it's a very hard thing to come by.
We were doing really well with the insurance for Hardy Wallad MMA, and then it just so happened that we mentioned that we've got a cage, and immediately the whole insurance thing changed.
It just changes, doesn't it? Change the dot. And there you go from obviously a seasoned vet in the game, a respected person in the game, but also somebody who's a current gym owner, and And the second one, the important point you were saying there was obviously it's the people within the sport who have been around. We know a lot of people who've been around for a long time that the general public don't know, but we know the solid, fundamental, hardcore people, men and women and man and boy who have grown up with this sport. Mm-hmm. And those are the people that deserve some form of, recognition, validation, protection, because if something does catastrophically go wrong with this sport, I want to be able to sort the wheat from the chaff, so that government do know that good people are trying to do good things, and we know that bad practice will always go on until such times. We don't want them to come in and drop the hammer and say, right, that's it, MMA is now gone. Then what? 20 years of my life down the drain until we get it back. We want to be proactive and try and stop that and say, look, just like boxing. Boxing is, it's a licensed sport. It's a governed sport. It's a recognised sport, obviously from Olympic standard, from a professional standard. But there's also a huge scene of unlicensed boxing out there. But the British Boxing Board of Control and the GB Boxing can draw a line and ring fence their people.
They're not going to get put into the same group if something happens untoward. Yeah,
and that's what we want.
Yeah, the thing is, when we were coming through, there were no clear paths in any direction. Like, you didn't know, there was no Ultimate Fighter, so you could get into the UFC that way. There were no amateur tournaments, especially not international ones. Like, you'd find the occasional, like, kind of mixed rules tournament, KSBO, as we were talking about a little while ago, no headshots and stuff. But, like, there was no clear path, so everyone was kind of clearing their own path. Now there are several clear routes, which means that the traffic going through those routes is going to be much greater. There are a lot of younger fighters, younger athletes, younger kids wanting to get into MMA and to start with MMA. And we need something in place to help those paths and to redefine those paths to make sure they're protected on all sides. That's what it is in my head. Like, it's the younger athletes that are getting into mixed martial arts with the idea of doing amateur and then semi-pro and then pro, and knowing all the way along that there's a governing body.
No, semi-pro.
Oh no, of course, no. I mean, but the thing is, everybody that gets to pro though, they should be going through these channels. 100%. You know what I mean? It's the safest and most intelligent way of doing it. Like, if you're an IMMAF champ, you're stepping into the pro ranks already knowing that you've gone through all the tests, you've already been protected all the way through as far as, like, medically, you've been tested, you've been competing in regulated events that have been respected and recognized by the UFC and all the other organizations around. So although I know English Mixed Martial Arts Association is, up to amateur and everybody underneath that, everybody pro and wherever you go, you're going to come through this organization in some way. And it's going to serve a purpose, so everyone needs to be involved in it. That's just the way I see it.
I couldn't agree more. It's about ring fencing.
Yeah,
especially in the UK, where it's not like in France, where MMA was banned, and they managed to put all their pyramid starting in the right way.
Yeah, they had to start with the foundation,
exactly,
and build it wide, and then build
slowly
on it.
But surely they'll open the door and things will start coming in. You said yourself, they're obviously the amateurs. IMMAF, and again, I work closely with IMMAF, and for good reason, because it's building the sport from the ground up. And you look at, like, IMMAF.org, go and educate yourself, have a look at what they do. The ground we've covered in the last 5 or 6 years has been, honestly, I can't, and I don't lend my name to anything. You know what I mean? I'll do it, obviously, in the right way.
Yeah.
But, like, the pandemic, it was like a dagger, to say. I mean, look, any pandemic, and like we said, there's people who have lost businesses and lives and all kinds of things. Without being, selfishly speaking, it's got in the way of everybody's life. Mm. But the momentum that IMMAF was building, particularly in the last World Championships, 2019 World Championships, there was over 500 athletes, over 50 countries. There was 4 cages. It was a week-long event.
Amazing. I watched it through the Raptors. They were there covering it all, and they came back saying it was one of the best things they've ever experienced. And they've been to some of the biggest UFC events now. It's a special thing, and it's something I wish was there in place when I was coming through. It would have helped me understand the game of MMA and how to compete properly instead of just trying to clear my own path through the nonsense.
That's what we did, isn't it?
Yeah,
because the vehicle wasn't there.
Mm.
And look at amateur Olympic. Look at boxing, for instance. An amateur boxer, you're looking at records into the hundreds of fights. In MMA, obviously, it's going to be some time before we get to that kind of level. But I think even in MMA now, anything classed as 20 or 20 plus amateur fights, you're considered like, wow, super experienced.
Yeah. When
it should be 100 plus. But obviously things slowly but surely over the years it'll evolve and get up to that.
Mm. Well, that was the other problem as well, was finding competition back in the day.
This wasn't there.
Especially for you as a heavyweight, it must have been difficult.
Amateur heavyweight? No. Fuck that. Get in with this guy.
Yeah, right.
He's wrestled a bit. Don't worry about it.
That's it.
He's a Russian.
You're ready to turn pro. You're ready to turn pro, definitely.
And like we said, just the foundations are being built, and this is a serious. It is a serious plea for us to just put out there and look at the work that IMMAF has put in, and then there's that definitive path. So that when we can finally shut up in 10, 20 years' time, people think, what were they talking about? The pathway's there.
Yeah.
Amateur longevity. And then you've got that middle ground. You've got the amateur longevity. Then you get into, like a Cage Warriors, then you've got the high-level domestic and European shows for people to cut their teeth as a professional before they go to the UFCs or the Bellators or the PFLs or the One Championship. You know, it's that definitive pathway.
Yeah.
Education and pathway, it's so important.
Yeah, and the bit that's never been there is the protection for the amateurs and the structure and the foundation for the amateurs. Like, I went straight into pro. A lot of people around my generation, your generation, they went straight into pro.
Because we had nothing else.
Because there was nothing else. If you wanted to fight MMA, you were a pro, and you were getting fuel money to show up to the event. So in summary, if you're a young MMA fighter, if you're interested in competing at some point, or you just like taking part in the sport, if you've got a gym in England, get on the EnglishMMA.org website, follow us on Instagram, and just kind of keep in touch with what we're doing, because there's going to be lots of ways for everybody to get involved and come together for the sport and benefit from one another.
Well said, Dan Hardy. And I couldn't agree more. Join us and help us, and we can shape this. It's not a cliche, but it's a two-way thing, and we can shape this sport together for sure.
Awesome. Seems like a good place to stop it. Nice one.
Thanks, buddy.